All right. Hey, Syed.
Hello,
Welcome back
John.
on. Hey, it's
Thank
been a
you.
while. I am very
Yeah.
excited. We were chatting before the show. I'm loving all the new tools you guys have been building for API development. It makes my day job easier, and they're so fun to present and stuff. So
Yeah,
good
same here.
stuff.
Thanks very much, John. Always a
All
pleasure
right.
to be here.
Yep. Awesome. Okay, let me jump right in with the community links. And they are here, and I will also share them in the chat. And okay, here we go. All right, awesome. Get right to it. So first off, we have this one. Okay, performance improvements. I'm not going to read through this one. This is there's quite a bit here, but just letting people know it's out. It's that time of the year. Grab a few cups of coffee, start reading. One thing I tried and actually I was kind of happy with was if you go in, oh, here, let me move this over. See, I'm just bouncing us all over the place. If I go in and actually try Bing summary, it actually doesn't do a bad job. I mean, it's like it's looking
Wow.
for, yeah, so
hmm
there's that.
The AI summaries are going all over the place. I noticed in Teams, if you do a recording and
Hmm.
how it's set up here at Microsoft, it gives you a recap. And wow, the recap is actually not bad.
Yeah. We've started on teams I'm on, like we'll record meetings just to get the AI summary. It's
Yeah.
pretty nuts. So
Wow. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So anyhow, tons of great stuff in here. I do like that there's a full, table of contents. Stephen spends tons of time on this, and then it's great too to watch the pull requests. The rest of the team is kind of jumping in and saying like, "Really, I didn't know about that," and kind of arguing about, or not arguing, but like clarifying all the use cases and stuff. I love that he includes all the benchmarks and everything in there. So amazing stuff. One other thing I've noticed is people in community start going through and they'll do their own kind of personal notes. So like Rico shared his notes, and just kind of here's what I took away from the different things. So that's also kind of nice. Make sure I didn't miss anything, or get kind of a high level view. Even these notes there's a lot going on, so pretty cool. All right, on to the next. So Eric writing about what's new in system text JSON. Some cool stuff here. I love what they're doing with the source generator. And then just a lot of other neat things like language support for serialization, things like required in init, combining source generators. This one always cracks me up when I read it. Unspeakable type support. It's like, I don't know, some like curse from the Hobbit or something, but whatever. This is types that are like, strange compiler generated types is now able to serialize them. So a lot of great stuff. I'm pretty sure I've got Eric signed up to do a session at .NET Conf to go over some of this stuff. So get to see more about it firsthand. Okay, Andrew, continuing his series. I love Andrew's posts. So here he's going through. He's on part 8 of .NET 8 previews, and here he's looking at identity API endpoints. So this is just really cool stuff. It's like the docs team is going to be going through and creating like all the official docs on it. This is a great like just walk through on how to actually use it. This is one of the first kind of things I've actually seen where you can actually like he just steps through what are the endpoints. Here's how to implement them step by step. So it's really good stuff here. And as always, some other things I love. Anyone in the world thinking about writing blog posts, like here's some top tips I love. He writes a summary at the end. He writes a table of contents at the beginning for series. And then he like clearly like explains at the beginning, here's what I'm going to do in this post. Like those three things, every time I'm like, thank you, Andrew. Okay. Another neat thing here. This is from Jayan, who was on ASP.NET Community Stand-Up earlier this summer. They're doing a lot of stuff with the templates. So here, this is a React TypeScript SPA template. This is using Vite. So they're doing a lot of stuff on updating the SPA templates, and so I'm happy to see that. And these are all working with the .NET 8 and Visual Studio 17.8. So Good stuff. Just update from Vincent on Fluent UI Blazor components. So this is a new release, and a lot of good stuff in here. So these components are just have been continuing to get better and better. We've looked at them a bit on the Blazor community stand-ups, and so happy to see this release come out. Docker Desktop has a new thing, which is Docker init support for ASP.NET. So what this lets you do is in a, from what I've seen, there's some internal discussion on this. From what I've seen, it looks like the best use case is you've already got an ASP.NET project, .NET new or, file new project. And then in that project, you can do Docker init and it'll detect, hey, this is an ASP.NET project, and it'll generate for you Docker ignore, Docker file, and a compose YAML, which is pretty nice. Okay, and then these are the links that you shared with me. So I'll turn it over to you. These are the, we've got these HTTP files in Visual Studio 2022. We've got your posts on safely using HTTP requests and dev tunnels in 2022. So I don't know if you want me to kind of scroll through these or if you want me to just kind of turn the screen over to you and you can.
No. Yeah, no, I just wanted it in the links for everybody
Awesome.
in case they wanted to take a look at those things.
All
So
right.
yeah, so today we'll be talking about some web API tooling that we've developed and enhanced in Visual Studio, and I'm going to do a quick kind of overview of all those kind of updates. So if this is new to you, I'm not just showing the brand new stuff. I'll do kind of a general presentation here because I haven't been here for a while, so I don't believe that we've talked any of the API stuff here on this show here. So anyways, yeah, so first we'll get to those links here. So let me get those links open up here. So one of the things that we'll be talking about today are HTTP files, and HTTP files is a file where you can create a request and then use that to exercise your web APIs. And this is not something that we came up with, but instead it was, I'm not, honestly, I'm not sure what person or organization actually invented this HTTP file format, but in Visual Studio Code, there's a very popular extension called REST Client that supports these HTTP files. So we kind of took inspiration from this, and we're adding support in a way that it should be compatible whether you're using Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code. On the Visual Studio side, we do have some additional kind of secret support that we'll show, but the basic usage should work across both Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code when you've got this REST client installed here.
This has been nice. We've been using this specifically. I've been pair programming a thing on a live stream with Burke Holland. It's a show called Burke Learns Blazor. I'm on Visual Studio Windows. He's on Visual Studio Code. And we're able to bounce back and forth and share those same files. So that's really handy.
Yeah, and it's, I think the future of .NET development doesn't live inside just Visual Studio, right? People are going to have a variety of different editors and IDEs. Whether those are editors and IDEs from Microsoft or not, but it's our job to make sure that people can work with whatever tools they want. And there's mixed teams out there too, right? Just like what you mentioned, you're using VS on Windows and your colleague is using Visual Studio Code on some other OS there. So that's always my objective, is to kind of increase compatibility no matter what product you're using there, right? And that's not only for this feature that I work on. All right, so let's go ahead and get started here. So I'm just to get started here, I'll create a new web API with .NET 8 just to kind of show that everything's working for .NET 8 preview, and we'll do the introduction to the Endpoint Explorer with this particular project here. All right, so here I've created a new web API project here, and I could run this. Let me go ahead and run that, and then here we'll get the Swagger page. And the Swagger page is always good for, the Swagger page is always good for discovering and exercising your apps, but there's other options there too. So let's take a look at those. So now we've got the Endpoints Explorer, and if that window is not open, you can go to View, Other Windows, Endpoints Explorer to open that window. Mine's already docked over here, so I'll go ahead and open that. And now here we can see a view of the API endpoints that exist in the solution broken down by project here. So this is the Endpoints Explorer, and from here...
Can I ask you a question that's bugged me about this? Always like, how does
yeah.
it find those? Is it analyzing my project? Is it looking for, like, do I need to run my project one time for it to like get the
Sure.
swagger? Like,
Okay.
how does it work?
Yeah, okay, yeah, great question. So this is using Roslyn APIs to detect the APIs that exist. So you don't need to run your project. You need to run your project to run any request on that endpoint, obviously. But the Endpoints Explorer doesn't require you running your project.
Wow.
With that being said, there are some scenarios where we don't have full fidelity of these endpoints, right? So one thing I do want to mention is if you use Endpoints Explorer and all of your endpoints don't appear, Google Visual Studio report a problem. Oh, actually, never mind. It's right here. If you're working with a solution and all your endpoints don't show up, what I would ask people to do is go to help, send feedback, report a problem, and then describe, or if you could kind of share a sample code for the endpoint which is not showing up, then we can go in and inspect that and then try to get that fixed up.
Okay. Quick
So
question too, just while
yeah,
we're on that. Does
yeah.
this does Endpoint Explorer work with, like, what sort of projects does it work with? For instance, here they're asking
Yeah,
about Azure
yeah,
Function
yeah.
APIs.
This should work with any ASP.NET Core Web API, including Azure Functions.
Nice.
I'm not static web apps. So depends on for the static. So for static web apps, it depends on how those APIs are defined, right? If they're defined within an ASP.NET Core web app, then they will show up. If they're defined as an Azure Functions project, they should show up as well. But that just kind of depends on that one.
Okay, last question I'll interrupt you with.
Yeah.
Here, a question of, would it work with framework .NET 4.8, or it's ASP.NET Core? Or...
This is limited to ASP.NET Core, so the way that you would discover those APIs is vastly different for ASP.NET Framework versus ASP.NET Core.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Endpoints Explorer only works for ASP.NET Core, but the HTTP file can work on any sort of kind of endpoint there.
Awesome. Okay.
And what I was trying to get at was, in the future, we might have some sort of additional runtime detection. Let's say, you'll get your list when you open your solution, but when you run it, we may be able to detect additional routes that will then populate that list. So this behavior may change in the future. All right, so what are some things that we can do here? So I can right click on here and say open an editor. That will just take me to the endpoint where it'll take me to the code where that endpoint was defined. And we currently don't scroll correctly, but we'll get that one fixed. And then also with the API project in .NET 8, you might notice that you get this HTTP file, and you might be wondering about that. So let's take a look at this. So I'm already running the web app here. So let me go ahead and introduce you to this HTTP file format here. And before I do that, let's do a more kind of simple example here. So we'll just actually run this in. And yeah, I just want to get this full URL here, basically. That's what I want. All right, so before we get to what I have here, let me do the most basic kind of example here. So you do your HTTP method, the URL, and then do triple hash to indicate that that's the end of the request. So let me go ahead and send that. All right, so now I can get my result here. And this is the HTTP response, and here's the actual response itself. If you need to look at the raw response, you can go there. For the headers that came back with the response, you can view those here. And then the full request is here. So here's the full URL, as well as the headers that were sent over. All right, so that's one way to do it. If you notice, inside this file, we can also have variables declared. And I'm not sure why I have two different URLs here, but maybe there's some... Does this work? One is oh, okay, I got you. Okay, one is the HTTP endpoint, and the other is the HTTPS. So that depends on how your app settings.json how your launch settings.json is configured there. And this app has two endpoints, and Visual Studio always prefers the HTTPS endpoint, and this looks like a bug, so we'll fix that. But either way, that actually does work. So here we can define a variable, and then we can reuse that variable here. And this makes it easier to then go through and modify those variables to test across different environments. And then we'll get to that as well here in a little bit. What's the environment file support? All right, going back to the Endpoints Explorer, another thing that you can do is right-click to generate a request. And if you have an HTTP file open, it will go ahead and add it to that. So here we can see that I've got my request added here. Now I can go ahead and send that request and then get the result. So that's the basic kind of usage here. Now let me show you some more kind of complicated examples here. So let's go to, let me run this app as well. All right, so this is a web app that I've been developing for some time here, and it's available at .netnew.azurewebsites.net, I believe, something like that. So here, what we can see is, I don't have many variables here, but we can see I'm referring to some variables here. So this is something that we've recently added. I think it went in 17.6, but all the information is in this blog post here. Safely use secrets in HTTP files. Yeah, 17.8 preview 1. So this part of the feature requires 17.8 preview 1 or above. And for the keen viewers, you might have noticed in the top right, I have an environment selector here. So I have two options here. I have a dev and a remote because I've defined two different environment files here, one for dev, one for remote, and I'll show you that file here in a minute. But before I get to that, let's continue on, and I'll talk more through the format of this file here. So the format of the request is your HTTP method, and then the URL. If you had a specific HTTP version that you were working with, you can indicate that here. And then after a new line, you would add your headers. So however many headers are here, I have one header, and down here you can see I've got a bunch of headers coming through. And then there would be a blank line, and then any body that was getting passed with the request would be after that blank line there. So that's the overall kind of format. And you can send whatever type of HTTP method you want. And then we already talked about this is how you use a variable. So I've defined this templates API host address, and then I'm referencing that with this double bracket syntax here. So that's how I get to it. All right, let's go ahead and send some examples here. So I have a search term defined. So let me go ahead and send that request. And if I go look at the request, we can see that it's WPF here. So now let me go ahead and introduce you guys to the environment file support, and then we'll also talk about the secret support. All right, so this is the basic kind of HTTP file. Now, if you want to, and the environment file is something which is not in the REST client. They have different ways of defining environments, and you can define your environments in your Visual Studio Code settings file. So that's not a file that typically gets checked in. So what we did was, Writer also has support for HTTP files, and Writer has this concept of environments as well. So we wanted to be compatible with that. So the format of our environment file, the basic format of the environment file, is the same as what's used in Writer. There are some more advanced scenarios that Writer enables, which we don't support. And then also we have the secret support, which Writer doesn't support. But the basic kind of case does kind of work here. All right, so here's my environment file. And in 17.8 preview 1, this file is called http env.json. But in later previews, this will change to http-client.env.json, and that's to increase compatibility with Writer, so that the name of that file in Writer is the same as that name that I just said there. In this environment, I define a few different variables here, right? So I've got that templates API host address, I've got my search term, my template pack ID, num to skip, and then num to take. And then also the same in the remote environment. The biggest difference that we're looking at here is really the URL, right? So when I'm in my dev environment, I'm testing on localhost. When I'm in my remote environment, I want to test on the actual live running API that's out there in Azure websites, right? All right, and then the switch happens over here. So that was what I was showing before. When that file is detected, it will then appear in this menu. And let me show you how that works, actually. So let me open this file in my Windows Explorer. So Visual Studio will look for a file with that given name in the same folder where the HTTP file exists. And if it finds it, it will use it. And if it doesn't find it, it starts crawling up. It starts crawling up your directories to try and find one. And when it finds one, then it will stop looking, and then it will use that one. So let's say if I had some environment, let's say if I had multiple API projects here, and I had some kind of shared environment that I wanted to share across both, I would create my environment file at this level, and then Visual Studio will detect that. But it will only detect the first one. All right, so now, and there's a lot of rain here, so I apologize for that noise. So yeah, let's go take a look at this. So now I'm in my dev environment. I'll go ahead and send that request. We can see that it is using localhost, and then the search is for WPF, which is expected. And let's say, now I was doing some dev on this, and then I've published it to my remote endpoint, and now I'm ready to test it on my remote. So I will go ahead and drop this down and select remote. And then I'm going to send my request again. And instead of localhost, it should be for .NET New Azure Websites. So yeah, this is Azure Websites URL. And then instead of getting WPF for the search term, I get Syed Ha. And that matches up with what we're expecting here. So that's kind of the secret support there. And in this example, I've kind of redefined all the variables, but if you don't have to redefine all the variables. You can still have variables here. But one important thing to note is if you do have a variable defined here, it will override anything that's inside those environment files. Like, let's say, for example, if I was to go here and if I have this in my file, it will always use this value here, no matter the environment, right? So here it goes back to localhost, right? So
it overrides what's in your HTTP file, overrides what's in the secrets.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
That's right. That's right. Okay. All right. So, and that wasn't secrets. Those were just environment files, right? So
Environment.
we
Yeah,
will
yeah.
get to the secrets here pretty soon. Okay, great. So yeah, let's keep going. So, yeah. So let me show you. There's also some. Let's go ahead and get to the secrets, I guess. Was there any questions on the basic kind of HTTP file that we should go over?
Okay, going way back, there was one other question on Endpoint Explorer. Is it possible to group those?
We don't have any grouping possibilities yet, but we are. Before we do any type of grouping, I think what we might work on is different types of sorting. Maybe I want to do an alpha sort, or maybe I want to sort by my controllers, or maybe I want to do any other types of sorts there. So yeah, we're looking to do sorting and filtering. But yeah, I'd like to hear more about the grouping. What was the ideas about grouping? Is that
I
wonder how that would
forget,
work? Yeah.
does it group by like there is in Open API, there's like kind of tags or group support there, right? I mean, yeah.
Yeah, so this isn't using OpenAPI. This is just using Roslyn here, but
Got it. Okay.
that is actually a question, right? And that was one thing that I was kind of faced with was, do we require OpenAPI and then leverage
Mhm.
OpenAPI, or do we just run off Roslyn? So I'm interested from the community to hear, would it be better if we just kind of went all in with OpenAPI here and require you to have OpenAPI on these projects, or is the Roslyn approach better? So yeah, would love to hear more about that. So yeah.
Cool.
All
All
right.
right. Let me see. There, I mean, one other question, which is a little, I mean, so this is API related. Can we use SpecFlow for testing APIs without rewriting the API for testing? That's a little off to the
I'm
side of
not.
what you're showing. But
I'm not really sure about that one. Yeah, I'm
okay.
not that familiar with SpecFlow.
Okay.
So yeah,
All
I
right.
don't think
Well,
I can answer that question.
okay. So this is cool. You showed environment support, and then yeah, I
Hmm.
think dive right into secrets, I guess, right?
All right, perfect. So yeah, let's go ahead and do some secrets here. So, and there's two things here, right? So there's user specific values and then there's secrets, right? And I don't want to necessarily mix these two things up, right? So, but let me get into it, and I'll try to speak to it in a way that is not confusing here. All right, so you've got the base kind of HTTP env.json, and the file name is changing like what we said before. Now, if you had any, let's say, user-specific value, right? Like, let's say you've got your HTTP, let's say you've got your environment file, and that's checked in, and the team is using that, but you're working on some kind of bug, and you want to override these values, right, with some user-specific values here. So in that case, you would create a file with the same name, but end it with .user. And .user is a special extension in the Visual Studio world that goes back decades, right? So .user is a file that's not checked in, and that file hasn't been checked in for decades. So you can be pretty confident that .user won't get checked in. But with that being said, the contents of the file, if they get checked in, you're not going to leak any secrets here. But yeah, so the idea for this is, these are user-specific values that will override anything which is in HTTP env.json. For example, here I've got templates API key. And if I had defined templates API key in the environment file, the user file would override that. Would override that. All right, and for secrets, let me go back to, I'm going to run through this pretty quick, right? So to reference, for more information, I've got this very long kind of blog post here, which goes through all the secret support. So, if you do get a little bit lost there, you can always take a look back at this document here, this blog post, and we'll create a formal doc from that as well. All right, so there's 3 types of secrets that we support, or 3 secret stores, or 3 different places that you can get the secret from. So one is the ASP.NET User Secrets. And in this project, I've configured the ASP.NET User Secrets, and I've defined this key here. If I were to go to right-click and Manage User Secrets, we can see I've got that here, right? So here's my config secret value from User Secrets, right?
And it's good to remind people why those exist, right? Like the magic thing about those user secrets is they're stored actually in your user profile. They're not stored with your source code. So and then the thing that it does is actually, this goes, yep. So you can see way over there, that's in your profile. And so there's no, like, you're not accidentally going to commit this to source control. And then also, I think what it does is it makes that setting in your, it's in your local
It's in the project
settings.
file. It's in the
Project
project
file?
file.
Okay. That's right. Secrets
Where
ID.
is it? Where is it? It was there, right? Yeah, there it is.
Right at the top. Yeah.
Yeah,
User
User
secrets ID.
Secrets ID. This doesn't
Cool.
have to be a GUID. You can change this to whatever you want.
Oh,
If you want to modify that path or whatever to more easy to read, I believe, yeah.
cool. Yep.
Yeah, that's right. So ASP.NET User Secrets is a great way to kind of store some secret values or user-specific values. What I don't like is it's still kind of in plain text here. So that's why we offer these additional kind of avenues for getting your encrypted value here. So the other example is Azure Key Vault. And one thing to note is that the syntax here, and I'm running on like a daily build here, right? So one is the syntax for the Key Vault. So the Key Vault in the blog post use a slightly different syntax where the Key Vault name was separated, and then the resource ID didn't have the Key Vault name. But we've changed it to where you can just copy and paste your resource ID here, which has the Key Vault name, and then we got rid of that Key Vault name property here. So this is easier because it's just a cut and paste from the Azure portal there. So here we can see an Azure portal, and the Azure Key Vault, I've defined a secret called Syed's secret value in this particular Key Vault repository. and I'm signed in with an account that has access to that Key Vault repository. So that's an important thing, right? You have to make sure that you're signed in with an account that has access to that Key Vault. And this is the way that you would kind of define that. So provider is Azure Key Vault, secret name is the name of the secret, and then the resource ID.
And
And they
that by
all,
sign in, that's the account settings in Visual Studio for sign in, right?
yeah, right here. So account settings, and then you would sign in. And you can sign in with, multiple accounts here. So if you're working across a variety of different accounts, we should find that account and then authorize that call, yeah.
Cool.
Okay. And here's the syntax for these secrets. So this is the provider is ASP.NET User Secrets for the user secrets. The provider is Azure Key Vault for Key Vault. And then the last option that we support is for just a raw encrypted string that's been encrypted with Windows DP API. And I do have some code on the blog post for how you can do that, but we'll add some functionality in the environment file to where you can more easily encrypt these values and move them to the .user file there.
Nice.
So now let's go take a look at how this works. So let me save that. Templates API key. Let me go back to I will do that one. Is that here? Yeah, right here. Okay, great. By the way, for anybody that's working on web APIs, if you're not familiar with httpbin.org, this is a really great resource. And this has nothing to do with Microsoft. This is like a third-party open source website, and it's a great thing to kind of exercise APIs. You can send requests and get different information. So definitely do take a look at that. So I'm using that, and I'm using the headers endpoint to just echo back the headers that my request is sending here. So I'll go ahead and, so here is what I have. So I'm using other secret here, and then templates API key, and then secret value. Let me go ahead and send that request. And if I were to zoom in a little bit, we can see that the request is coming back. So Syed secret value, super secret value from Key Vault, and then value from user secrets. And we did see that value from user secrets before when I looked at that, the user secrets file there. Okay, great. All right, why don't we talk, I see a question about authentication here. So why don't we go ahead and dip into that then. So let's go to To-Do API here. So this is David Fowler's To-Do API. You can find this easily on GitHub. Just Google or Bing David Fowler To-Do API. But yeah, it's just David Fowler / To-Do API as well. And I forked it because I have I modified the launch settings to launch with HTTPS instead of HTTP, but it's not significant. Okay, so here, let me run the To-Do API. So let me go ahead and run the To-Do API.
Oh. I'm not sure. I don't hear audio from you, Syed. I'm not sure if other people do, and it's just
Oh,
me.
wow. Sorry, I
Yeah.
don't know how that
Yeah.
happened.
Okay.
Okay, my bad.
It was a few. It
Wow,
was.
how
Yeah.
how
Okay.
long back was it with no audio?
It could have been as much as like 30 seconds.
Oh, okay.
I
All
was
right.
like troubleshooting on my end. Did I mute my computer?
I don't know how
Yeah.
that happened. Wow, that's weird. Okay, so yeah, let me go back. So after I initialized the project, what I did was I created this request. So I added my username. I sent the request to create that user. And then I used the .NET user JWT's command line tool to initialize that, and then also create a bearer token for this particular user, and then I just pasted that here. This would be something that you would paste in the .user file, because this will be different from one machine to another. And let's go ahead and start exploring that. So now, here was one question about, how do I authenticate? So it depends on it depends on the auth that the API is using. So for in a lot of cases, you will send a header that's got some sort of a secret value or a token, right? So for JWTs, we'll add the authorization header here, and this is the format. So it's a bearer token, so that's the format, and then we'll send the auth token with it.
Mm-hmm.
I will just comment this out for a second and then send my request, and we can see that I get 401 unauthorized. And then if I were to then uncomment, we can send a request again, and then now I can see I do get I am authenticated and I do get the result. And on the request tab, I can see the authorization header was sent in as expected. So yeah, so if you're able to test your APIs by passing in a header that's got the secret value or the token, this is the method to use for that. And I highly recommend using one of those secret stores for that token value. You don't want to put that secret inside this file and then get it checked in. That's a big problem. If they're for the other authentication methods, which are not header based or require something that's outside of the request, those we haven't added support for, but we're going to be looking at adding support. We wanted to get the environment and the secret support in first, and then we'll look at adding support for the different auth scenarios there. So that's something that we'll be working on soon. All right, great. So now
I've got a few questions here, just that come to me. But one is, like, a lot of time in some scenarios, there's like a request, and then you get a token back, right?
Mhm.
And then you want to work with that token. Is there the flow here is basically to do that manually, get my token, and then put that in an HTTP file. Is there some way to like bind to a value I get back from an HTTP request?
Yeah, great question there, John.
Ah,
So if I look at the the REST client here, and
mm-hmm.
hold on, let me do this one more time. So in the Visual Studio Code REST client, so they do have this support, and that's called name to request. So we don't have that support yet, but that is something that we'll be working on, and we did prioritize the environment and the secret support before this because I thought those were more important.
Yep.
But now named request is going to be one of the top items that we work on.
Oh my gosh, I can't
And
wait.
for the kind of keen viewers, you might have noticed that I have an example. Where is that example? Well, I had an example here where I swear I had it here. Where oh yeah, right here. See, I was doing that right. So so this is the way that you create a named request. And by the way, the hashtag or double slash is the start of a comment. So here I create a named request called login. So here you can do your login. But notice this password, right? So this is one area that we have an advantage is, you don't have to actually put your password here. So this request has now been given the name login. And then you can refer to that later on. So now you send that request, and then you can do login.response.headers to get the header back. And not only can you access the headers, but you can also access the body. So if this returned a JSON body, then you
I
would
see
add like
below it
a
says comment ID down there, right? It's binding off of
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Ah,
exactly,
it's
yeah. So this is a
beautiful.
JSON path expression, and if the result was XML, you would use a XPath. Yeah, here's the example. So you would use an XPath expression to get that.
Oh my
So
gosh, this is
this is
exactly what I was hoping for. So
So
cool.
yeah, so this is what we're hoping to work on pretty soon. One of the next kind of features, but for full transparency, we haven't actually started on this support yet.
Yeah.
But this is an item that's very hot on my radar. Every time I go and present HTTP file, this is one of the first questions that's asked, right? And it makes sense too, right? Because I want like a flow, right? I want to be able
Hmm.
to create a user. Well, what I want is I want to be able to kind of clone my repository, initialize my API, run it, and then I want to start from scratch, right? I want to be able to create a user. I want to get that token, and then I want to send it to this request to get some to-dos or to create some to-dos. And then I want to send that to do to do a put to update those to-dos, and then I want to delete those to-dos, so on and so forth, right? So this, once we add support for those named requests, I think that's going to open up like, wow, a lot of kind of scenarios and possibilities there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that's something that's very important to me, and we're going to start working on that pretty soon.
Awesome. Okay.
All right, so now, okay, so we talked about a lot of different things here, and I'm hoping some of the audience has, a recent version of Visual Studio that has HTTP file support. And by the way, with that being said, let me show you how you can add an HTTP file to an existing project, right? So let's say that that file wasn't there, or you wanted to create a different file. You can always right click and say add new item, and then search for HTTP, and then create your file there, right? So that's one way that you can create it, but you could create the HTTP file however you want, and then get it to show up, right? All right, so I have another sample here. So this is a very basic kind of web API here. So let me go to, this is a controller API, but it doesn't matter whether it's controller or not. I think like a year, it was a long time ago that I came and I presented Dev Tunnels, and I had people voting for their favorite ice cream, vanilla, chocolate, or strawberry. So I thought maybe we could do a kind of API version of that as well. So here, very basic kind of add vote, and it's just in memory here that we tally up those votes. Let me go ahead and run that. And then, oh, hold on, I forgot something actually. So one thing that I forgot was I wanted, so when I run this, I get a URL that's localhost, obviously, right? So I'm not going to be able to share that with people. So let me close out of that. So what I'll do instead is, if I want to share this URL, I'm then going to use Dev Tunnels. And I've already created a persistent URL here. But why don't we go ahead and run through creating a new one here. So I will say create a tunnel, demo 1, temporary, and then I'll make it public so everybody can access that. I don't know if I need to re-enter those credentials or not. Let me go to the window here. Okay, great. Yeah, so that was created and has been configured. Okay, nice, see that there. Let me go ahead and run that. All right, instead of getting localhost, I should get a publicly available URL. And this is just a warning that says you're about to connect to a dev tunnel here. So we'll go ahead and select OK for that. All right, so now instead of getting that localhost URL, I get this URL. Let me go back to the index page. So here I've created a page for people to vote on their favorite flavor. If you're using the HTTP file, here's the syntax for you to use. And if you don't have the HTTP file, you can use PowerShell with invoke web request or curl. Let me show a QR code here. So scan that QR code. I'll leave this on the screen for a minute. So go ahead and scan that QR code to get to this page, and then do that vote. Let me leave this on the screen for another minute.
All right.
And then I might even copy that URL.
Yeah, you can throw it in the. You can send it to me, and I'll put it in the chat.
Yeah, let me do that. So I will send that to you. And then let me load up. Why is it not going?
Also, I'm hearing a little bit of like, I don't know, TV or music or something.
Oh, hold on a second. Yeah, sorry about that. That was my son. He just got back from school. So yeah, so we got that URL. I think did I paste that in?
Did you
John,
put
the
it?
URL's not pasting here for some reason into StreamYard for some reason, dude. Wait, paste. I'm not sure what's going on, but you can grab it, right? Did you visit that URL, John?
I got it off of my off of the QR code.
Yeah, great. Okay, so that should be the same. Let me pull up the page where it's running. I got so many of these things, I'm not even sure which one is running. Okay, that one's not it. That one's not it.
Okay, so
let me close everything.
Trying to think how best to get this from my phone to my computer.
Let me rerun this one more time. Port forwarding, that's this one. Yeah. Let me go back. Okay, so now it's here. So let me, I'm actually just going to go ahead and send a vote for of my own here. Let me go to my HTTP file here. So where is that? Port forwarding, no, that's, it's right here, Ice Cream API, yeah, perfect, okay. All right, let me bring that to one side, and then let me bring this guy over to, and then let me do a vote here and see if it's showing up. Oh wait, am I? Something's going on, it's not working for some, oh wait, did that? Yeah, vanilla, okay, so I'm not sure why it's not, it's supposed to be printing out the result here, dude. Wow, that's weird actually. Let me try this one more time. Let me make sure I got everything set up here. Ice Cream API, let me debug it. All right, let's send the request again. Should pop in here, I think. Do I still have my breakpoint set? No, no, it's not set anymore. Try it again.
So what the dev tunnel is doing for while you're doing that is that makes it a public endpoint that then proxies it over to your app running. So it's a public URL anyone could hit, and it's running on your machine.
That's right.
All right. Wow. New vote.
Yeah, print results, dude. So did that not print? Oh, yeah, there it is.
There it is.
Okay, wow, that's so weird. I'm not sure what happened there. Let me take that breakpoint out. All right, so strawberry
if
chocolate.
can you share that URL with me somehow, Teams, or in the StreamYard or something?
Yeah.
I got the QR code, but it's on my phone.
Yeah, I got you.
Be fun to get some more votes in here.
Sure. Yeah, let me get you real quick. Yeah, I know. I'm always interested. I think chocolate won on the other one there. Last time I was here, that was more kind of web-based. Okay, so I
think
did send you
somebody
that
cheated.
URL.
It was okay. There it is. All right,
There's always some kind of cheaters over there, you know. People that are very passionate about their favorites, you know what I mean?
That's right.
Oh yeah, look at that chocolate. Chocolate is in the lead already, dude. You see that? Wow, man, people they're passionate about chocolate here for some reason. So, anyways,
Right.
all right. So we'll just kind of let that run in the background there. So what is it? 1:51. We still have time here. So why don't I show you another kind of cool example with APIs and with dev tunnels here. I'm going to show you a cool kind of example that kind of ties it all together, I believe. So one thing that you might work on is GitHub webhooks or any sort of external service that you're working with, right? So here is an example of a GitHub webhook. So let me go into webhooks. So here I've configured my webhook. Let me sign in with GitHub Mobile here. 1 second. Where are we at here? Yeah. So what is it? 36. Let me sign in real quick. Okay, great. Perfect. So here I've configured the GitHub webhook to kind of send me no matter what event kind of goes through. And here's some recent deliveries here. And I can see that there's one here, but let me go and I'll create a new, I'll create a new comment here. So new comment in demo. So I'll go ahead and comment that. Wait, is the app itself is not running, I think. So hold on, just, this is the other one actually. Oh, how do I, let me start this one up too. So I'll say debug, start without debugging. So what I did was oh, you know what? Hold on a second. I think I'm gonna have to redo that. I think I'm gonna have to redo that URL actually. I'm gonna have to redo it in GitHub, I think, because I'm using a different tunnel here, but that's fine. So why don't I go back to GitHub? So I will edit my settings here to have my new URL. Okay, and then I'll save that. So let's update that webhook, and then let's try it. So now let's say new comment and demo. And then where is my, so this is the webhook one. So let me bring this over to the side. And then let me move that over a little bit. So now I'm going to create this, and there should be some kind of message that shows up over here. New comment. Okay, let's do this real quick. So let me go to my settings, recent deliveries. Oh, so I got some kind of error here. So what is this? Oh, 404. Okay, maybe, okay, I think I would have to, I think I was using the other URL here. This is the one right here, yeah? GitHub, no, that's not my GitHub webhook one. Okay. Let me go back to, which one was it? It's here, right? So, is that the right one? GitHub webhook. Oh, my webhook sample is here. Okay, so it's not running, so let me do that one. Sorry about that. We'll start without debugging. That should be the same URL, so I can just send it again after this gets started up. All right, so there we go. So let me bring that over here. Just continue for that one. Let me resend that. I will redeliver that one. Hopefully we should see some comments here. Anyways. Okay, this, I think the URL is messed up here. And I'm not sure how I could fix that because I don't want to mess up the other demo. Okay, let me see. This is the URL. All right, so let me go back. Okay, so go back to settings. So I'll edit this. Let's go back and delete that. I don't know if that was the same URL or not. Let me update that, and then we'll redeliver one more time. All right, well, anyways, we're getting 404 here, but what I wanted to show was how easy it is to actually do this. So let's say if you're debugging that webhook, you create yourself an HTTP file, and then we can just basically go like this. So let's say, so here's the URL. So I'll copy that, and then I'll do a post. I'll give it the URL. Let me close out of that. And then you can almost kind of copy and paste all this stuff. So I'll copy and paste this here. So I'll copy and paste that there and just get rid of the stuff which is not correct here. So that was that one. Request method post. And then also the same for the body here. So you can just copy and paste the whole body.
Oh, wow.
And then modify it as needed, right? And then send that request. And, you know, I'm going to get a 404 here. But if I was able to kind of get that URL configured correctly, then this would work, right? But I don't want to turn off my tunnel because of that. So that was what I was going to show here was, you know, for me, and then you can just you can modify this as much as you want, right? It's always kind of tricky testing this with GitHub because you always have to go through and actually do something on the GitHub side to then get those events to kind of fire off.
To trigger the webhook, right?
Yeah. So that we have that.
Wow. Okay.
Look as well. Yeah. Any questions? I do have some more things to kind of go through here, but we only have a few more minutes, I think, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're not super tight on, we don't have to end exactly on the minute, but it's fine. Let me see. How do I, I'm not sure I understand this. Maybe you will. How do I publish certain APIs in the API sets from configuration? I'm not sure what the question is.
I'm not sure about that question there. But if you're saying that, you know, you want different API endpoints available in different environments, there's a variety of different ways that you can do that. One way would be using the built-in ASP.NET Core environment support, where you say if the environment is development, add this, and if the environment is production, add that. So that would be one way, but there may be other ways to do that as well.
Okay. Here's a question. Let me see. Does the dev tunnel forward or respond to the request raw? If I have an application that does a call via a webhook that does custom self-signed certificate, SSL certificate to verify local server.
One of the things when you send the request through the dev tunnel, there is a header that gets modified. I believe it's the origin header. It's the header that indicates the URL where the request originated.
Mm,
And I believe the default is to use the actual localhost value there. But there is a way there. Go take a look at the dev tunnels docs. That should be shared on that URL list, and there is a header, there's an additional header that you can send in with your request to preserve the origin.
okay.
So hopefully that answers that question there. But besides that, your request should come as expected there. If you've got a certain body, the body shouldn't be modified, and your headers should not be modified as well. So yeah, and there are some additional headers there, especially with respect to auth as well. So if you have an advanced kind of scenario, you might have to fine tune some of those headers. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, I guess just one thing you're showing there, like you showed grabbing kind of a standard request, and then it's all kind of like the standard HTTP request style. I mean, I guess that's one other thing I think is like there's like if you're doing debugging tools or like grabbing stuff out of Edge Dev Tools network or whatever, is it pretty similar? Like, I mean, you can just grab like all the request headers and paste them
Hmm.
in. I guess, yeah.
This is the most common format that I've seen, where the headers are formatted in this way: the header colon and then the value, and then the body will be whatever language or syntax is that body. So yeah, the body will always be whatever it needs to be. And then this was the most common format, but it's not like a standard or anything. You might find a variety of different ways that these are represented in different tools. Postman will usually show the headers in a table, for example.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So, one other thing that just comes to mind for me is you showed environment support, you showed secret support. There's also one thing that I think you went through, but there's that like, yeah, how are we doing? I'll confess, I gave
Strawberry somehow.
strawberry that some of
Strawberry
those are
somehow,
me.
yep. Mm.
Yeah. Um, so one thing that's kind of neat too is like you can plug in like different sorts of values like random or date time or stuff
Oh,
like that, right?
yeah, 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 that's
Which
right,
is
that's right,
pretty
that's right.
pretty cool too. Like so for instance, in my test case, I wanted to create like some different things and I wanted to just like fill in the blank. I want to create a random integer for my ID or whatever, right? So
Hmm.
that's pretty awesome there.
Yeah, yeah, so I can show
Wow.
that. So along with as a part of the 17.8 preview one, that's where we got the secrets. We also added um, some functions, or these are called like special variables, or something. I forget what the REST client calls it, but these are ways to then generate new values, right? So here's an example of a random integer. You can also specify the range, the min and the max. If you need to get a date time, there's these two different formats that are supported. So this
Hmm.
would be the current date time in these two different formats. This is a date time which has been offset by 1 day. So let's say if you want, tomorrow's date, this is the syntax there, and you can
Okay.
offset before or after, and you're not limited to days. You can do weeks, months, so on and so forth. If you want to just print out a date time with a certain format, you would do it like this, and this is offset by 1 year, so 1 year in the future. And also for timestamp and local date time, so that's the syntax. Let me go ahead and send it. And once again, I'm using that httpben.org/headers to then inspect the headers, which are sent with the request here. So
So what's awesome there is it echoes the
mhm.
values right back to you, right?
Yeah, without that, I could go to the request tab and take a look at the headers here, but I think
Hmm.
um, I think it just looks better over
Yeah.
here. Yeah, yeah, and wow, such a great resource, httpben.org. Yeah,
Yeah.
fantastic resource. Yeah, I love
I
that
looked over
website.
there while you were
Hmm.
talking. It's just some individual dev, right? I mean, I guess community kind of helps support, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like jumping ahead, but like I'm thinking once I had named value support, I would even think about like I bet somebody would, if they haven't already, somebody would set up like a GitHub action, and I could actually do some some simple validation against an API. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? As part of that.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So that's one thing that we're looking at is, CI/CD support for these files and being
Wow.
able to run. So that's another thing. One is, I want the ability to just run every request in the file, right? So I've got a bunch of requests here. I want a button that says run all of them and then give me a summary. Just show me a summary here of which one kind of ended up with a 400 or a 500. And then also the same for a CI/CD. And that's something that we're exploring as testing, right? What's the proper way to kind of test? And, we're not talking about unit tests here. We're talking more kind of functional or end-to-end tests here.
Hmm.
And we're looking through the various different kind of options, right? Like, should we add assertions to this file
Mm.
or what, right? What are the best kind of options there? So we are kind of exploring that testing space, and that's very important to us, but I think it's going to take us a while to kind of flesh out our ideas there. And I think whatever we come up with for an end-to-end test on API should also then easily transfer to load testing as well. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, yeah, this is a lot of great stuff. I guess the things I would ask is like if you could remind or show us like for people that have both bugs or requests. Oh boy, look, there goes vanilla.
Somebody's got
Something's
a
going
script
on
working
there.
on vanilla over here, dude.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Um, all right, vanilla
I
wins
do
this
think that's pretty amazing how the audience is literally connecting to my machine over here, right? I mean,
time.
wow, that's pretty cool, right? Isn't it?
That is pretty great. Oh, did we test also here? Somebody's always got to do this. I got to modify my request to do something invalid. Oh, like there we
It should
go.
say something like unknown vote or something. New vote for new. How did that? I got some kind of bug. Oh yeah. Oh, it says new vote for. Yeah,
Oh, I broke
this
your
must
machine.
be. No, I didn't. I just it was just I handled the case. It was just a bad kind of. I didn't handle it properly. I guess I got some kind of bug over here, dude. But
Oh,
let me see, what do we have here. How was I doing that? So yeah, that one was not. Wow, this font is really driving me crazy. Oh, it's because
yeah.
I do print results. Oh, yeah. Okay, so that's it. So this, you know what? Let's see if we can hot reload it. Let's see if we
Okay.
can hot reload it. So this is an on-the-fly kind of demo here. So let's see if we can hot reload that.
Always hot
Unknown
reload's always going to be
flavor.
magic to me.
So now let's see what number we're and see. I'm hoping that this number will not change. 1453. Let's see if that's gonna work, dude. All right, let's see. All right, send the request again, John.
And then more. Well, there they go.
Did it say
Okay,
unknown
I'm
flavor?
sending
Yeah,
my
there it
invalid
is.
requests.
Unknown flavor, dude. You saw it?
Woo!
Yeah. So that's hot reload for you, dude.
Okay, that's amazing.
Wow, not bad, right? So yeah, somebody's very passionate about. I got some others for V. But anyways, I just put this together a few minutes,
Wow.
It's not like an enterprise demo here, dude.
Well, that's pretty great. Okay, so I guess to wrap up here, let's if you can remind people what's the best way to both report bugs or
Oh yeah.
feature requests.
What is that? Well, anyways. Yeah, the best way to report a bug is to do send feedback and then report a problem right here in this help menu. Okay, let's don't do that. Right here in this help menu. So you would do send feedback, report a problem.
Hmm.
And that would be for bugs or, unintended or unexpected behavior. For areas where you feel like this is a new feature idea, you can always do suggest a feature. And if you're not sure which one, always default to report a problem here. And if that's a feature, we'll convert that to a suggestion and then kind of go from there. Yep.
Cool. And then I guess we've got all your links are going to be in the show comments. They're in the
Mm-hmm.
thing, but like you shared the docs and the HTTP files and all that stuff. So that's
Mm-hmm. Yep. So here's the HTTP file docs. A lot of the things that we talked about are covered here. The ability to use secrets and the environment files is covered in this. Safely use secrets in HTTP files. And then for dev tunnels, we've got the official docs here as well. And then for Fowlers to do API, just search David Fowler to do API.
very cool. All right. Well, I think that's a pretty good spot to wrap up. So Thanks a bunch. Great questions. Amazing demos. This is super fun, and I'm like I was saying beforehand. I'm loving these features. They're so it just makes my development life like so much more fun. I'm not hopping between different tools all the time, and I love too. I mean, you said kind of in passing, but I love the work you're doing so that these are as standard as possible with like VS Code and Writer too. That's really cool.
Yeah, that's a really tricky thing, but
I get it,
yeah,
but I
it's
appreciate it.
very
As a web
talented.
developer, I want to work with as many standards as I can.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. We're trying to do our best, but they were incompatible to begin with. So maybe this can be a push to kind of get even more of a standardization here. But yeah,
that'd be cool.
and I do like working with the writer folks too. So yeah, yeah, I love working with people and trying to get things working across different products here, right? Because at the end of the day, it's the end user, right? They need to decide what they want to use, right? And it's our job to meet them where they're at, right? I mean, it's not like Microsoft 20 years ago where it's Visual Studio, Visual Studio, Visual Studio, right? I mean,
Mhm.
people have a choice nowadays, right? We have to accept that choice.
Very cool. All right. Well, I guess that's a good spot to wrap up. I'll definitely get you back on here when you've got more stuff to show off. So,
Thank you very much, John.
all right.
Bye bye.
Thanks a bunch, Sad.